The following episode of The Art of Transitions features guest Gwen Mazza. Information provided in this program is solely the opinion and experience of Gwen Mazza and does not reflect the position of Ensemble Financial Services. All discussions is for information purposes only and is not an offer or recommendation to buy or sell securities.
Welcome to The Art of Transitions. My name is Gwen Mazza and I am your host. Today we're going to be talking about a concept, back to basics. It is dealing with the transitions and challenges of these current financial times. I have a very special guest that I'd like you all to meet today. He actually happens to be my husband, James Mazza. He is a financial planner, and much like many of you today in the community, we're having great conversations about the economics of our country. And in those conversations, I thought it would be really important and helpful if Jim came on the show and shared some of his wisdom and information that he knows about current trends, as well as the way in which we can actually calm ourselves a little bit in this current crisis. If you hold tight, we'll return soon with The Art of Transitions and Gwen Mazza. Thank you. Welcome back. My name is Gwen Mazza, and I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce you to a very special guest today, my husband, Gwen Mazza. Thank you for coming on today.
Hi.
I asked you to come today because you and I have been having a lot of conversation in our own home about the current economic stress that's going on, not only in Rochester, but throughout the country and actually throughout the world. And I also am very aware of the fear and the anxiety that it's creating for many, many people. And part of our commitment that you and I have talked about is the willingness to share information and tools that we use personally and professionally with those that are around us. So I thank you for coming.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And like all of our guests, I was wondering if you would be willing to share with our audience your journey into the financial planning world and why it's so important for you to be of service to the community in this role.
I guess there was a theme through my life, which was always wanting to work with people versus with things, and also to work in such a way that there was a task at hand, and I'll explain that. Way back in some early years, won't go back, won't share how many years ago,
Okay.
I actually was interested in being a surgeon. And in that way, I wanted to work with people, but I wanted to work in such a way where I could be proficient at a task. So that theme then carried through. I progressed, if you will, from moving in that direction to going into counseling. Actually, I got a master's in counseling. And it didn't take long from that I realized, as much as I liked counseling and working with people on that level, I still was very task focused, very anxious to get to, okay, well, how are we going to solve your problem or problems? And what I gained from that is that I think the benefit I had for people was to get back to helping them solve problems. So I didn't spend too much time being a counselor, and then later progressed into actually working on my MBA, and then after that progressing into financial services, which I've been doing now for about 24 years, and so I'm very fortunate that I've found that theme of working with people on a very sometimes very personal level, not just money, but issues that are very important to people, but very specific task of financial. How are we going to get to where you want to be?
Well, I'm very aware that when I met you, that you helped me really understand the difference and what the role of a financial planner was. I didn't know, truly didn't know. It wasn't because I wasn't intelligent or educated. It was really because I had never had the opportunity to really appreciate what a financial planner did. And you really educated me very well on that, and I appreciated it. When you think about your history and where you are now, it really has suited you well. It was a nice match. And it was that nice blend of bringing those wonderful people skills as well as the ability to complete and be focused. So that was really pretty neat. It also is important for me as a person to understand that someone who's planning my future with me understands the emotions that go with the changes and the different tides that come in, ebb and flow. And I know for a fact, and you do personally and professionally, that right now we are going through a lot of emotions. We're going through a lot of stress here as a community, again, as a country, and as a world nation in a lot of ways. Can you take a moment and just normalize some of the kind of emotions that you see? And I think you brought a slide with you. Normalize some of the emotions and maybe even some of the progression that you see people typically go through during these incredible financial shifts.
Basically, I've broken down, I think, as my clients and even personally experience emotions, three basic emotions. First of all, the fear. Not knowing. I mean, we are even concerned. We're not even sure, even what we read in the papers, what the media displays to us, even what the president tells us in his addresses on TV, etc. We're not really sure. We hear things that sound hopeful, which is the other emotion, but we're really not. You know, the details. The devil's in the details. So we're still fearful of what does this really mean, and we're also getting mixed messages because obviously politically there are different factions that agree with what the president and our leaders are saying, and then there's obviously we get messages from other leaders that say, you know, this is the wrong direction. We may not, this may not be the right path, who's going to pay for this, etc. So it leaves one with that unknown, and the unknown generates fear. The other fear, the other emotion, which hopefully, globally even, we've learned a lesson from, is greed. We have the examples of what everyone, and I hear this a lot, blaming Wall Street and all those executives that are making way too much money. And we have certainly, unfortunately, the Bernie Madoff situation, which are all issues of greed. And there are times, I mean, we can even look at some of the issues that got us into this situation. People applying for a loan on a home that they really couldn't afford. Maybe it didn't give all the information on the application, so we have these subprime mortgages, etc., which started the disaster. So even on not a you would say a big shot level, within our society, people said, yeah, I tried to make a lot of money here. And maybe it was greed.
And I think it's really important for me to, in any way, accept responsibility around is to look at my own level of fear, to look at my own ability to be hopeful, but also I think, and I think this is one of the things I think important for us to deliver to the community, is really start to take our own inventory about how we may have gotten caught up in the greed. And to say that it's just on Wall Street, it would not be a truth.
Oh, absolutely not. I think that's a very human emotion to say, to not want to personalize where these problems came from. It's outside me. I know I'm not a guilty person, or I didn't have a weakness, or I didn't make a mistake. We all can look back at even our 401k statements and say, well, gee, who was the one who decided to put everything into maybe very aggressive positions, and then with a downturn suffer huge losses? Well, maybe it's because we looked at prior results and said, oh, gee, if it did that, last year,
Right.
I want that now too.
Yes.
Not taking into account
Right.
of risks that you're taking, et cetera. It's all, there's a part education, and then there's a part of, greed.
One of the things that I also know that you and I've talked about is not only understanding that cultural concept of fear, of hope and greed, but also to teach that to our children, because they watch us.
Absolutely.
And how we have in the past, and we're all guilty. I'm going to speak for myself and say, and I'll claim, most of us are all guilty.
Right.
And
it's just human nature.
It is human nature, and when you understand it and you start to put it in check, it's only then, my belief is then and only then that we can start to change things around. And so my other hope is that in this conversation today, that our community, our listening audience, really gets a chance to take their own self-inventory, their own thoughtful inventory, that you begin to have a chance to have a great conversation with your own families and your own neighbors about, how have I contributed to where is this bigger picture? And it's going to take all of us to change that around. Exactly. I really believe it is. So I asked you to come up with some real simple kind of pieces, if you didn't mind, about some real basics about what you thought might be helpful for the community and the larger global community that might help us move and transition through these really challenging times. And you did just that.
I think a good step to start is to, first of all, figure out, financially speaking, and maybe even emotionally,
Right.
Spiritually,
Right.
Where are you now? Sitting down, taking an inventory, listing out a budget, looking at where your assets are, how much you have, what your liabilities are. I think that's the first step.
So you're talking financially, take your picture, but also take your emotional, your spiritual picture, maybe even your health picture, to find out what your needs are.
Exactly.
Right.
Under the emotions, again, of fear, with people losing jobs, losing retirement dollars, losing maybe even some home equity, it's a good time, I think, to look at what we're doing right now, nationally, globally, is deleveraging, is reducing debt. And not only reducing debt, but also looking at ways, how can I reduce the interest on debt that I have outstanding? A home equity loan, for example, might be a way of consolidating debt and reducing an interest rate. Under hope and building confidence, I think this is a time, usually in times of stress, I'm sure our elders can talk about, and we can learn from them in terms of what they went through during the Depression in 1929 and the early 30s, is a lot of people fell back to even God, praying, meditating, thinking about what's really important in my life, and then relying on family for help, for getting through crises, for sometimes just talking, just sharing their fears, concerns, etc. Also relying on leaders. We're hoping, we're trusting that our leaders are going to do the right thing and lead us through this.
Interestingly, in addition to our families, because so many of us are spread out so wide and far these days, my thought also is those wonderful friendship supports. When I look at our friends and how they really are great for us, I can't imagine getting through these challenging moments without the laughter and the fun, as well as the going through the rough moments.
Sometimes knowing that you're not alone.
Absolutely, yep.
No one has to really pull out their portfolio and say, see how much I've lost, did you lose this much, and I hope you lost more, because then I would feel better. And obviously, instead of doing that, maybe even relying on, I think, I know that churches, congregations, etc., synagogues, the congregations are themselves, and pastors and leaders are saying, gee, maybe we should get a group together to talk about these issues and these concerns and share. So it can be more than just yourself. Again, family, friends, communities that we're involved with.
So through the losses, you're telling me there's great gains.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sometimes a door closes and another one opens. And I think what we're going through right now, not only on economic and financial means, we're really, I think, going through some major changes of who we are, what our expectations are, and maybe getting, like I say, getting back to basics. Maybe not thinking about that I want to retire when I'm, 45 years old. I want to have the lifestyle of the rich and famous. Maybe having those things really wouldn't be that important, or it really wouldn't create the happiness. So maybe this is an opportunity for us in these times to get back to what's really important. Our health, our family, maintaining a lifestyle that keeps us happy, but it doesn't create other issues like having too much money.
I also realized in our own life that we're slowing down differently. It's not, it's just a different way of slowing down. And this, not having, chasing or doing whatever that greed can do really gives you a chance to pause in a very centered way. And that is one of the things that I want to thank you for, personally and professionally in many ways, because we also work at times together. But the ability to just stop and enjoy just right where we are with all that we've been blessed with, and move those pieces forward too. Can you talk a little bit about the need versus wants piece? I know that you have a little diagram here, and I also know that we use this. This is in our life, and I like this.
Okay.
So I'm so glad that you did this.
I'll remind you how much you liked it when we actually go through it, honey.
Well, I will give you the annual report in a few months here too.
Okay. The needs and wants, this is part of figuring out where you are today. And this is assessing your goals, what's really important. But I've broken it down. Needs and wants monthly would be kind of the budget stuff.
Right.
What are the things that you really need financially to maintain your lifestyle? And those should really be the basic things. The wants might be on a monthly basis. Well, we want to go out 3 times a week for dinner.
Right.
Okay. The thing is to look at your income for a month and compare that to what you need. If the difference between the needs and the income on a monthly basis just doesn't allow for that want of 3 dinners out a week, well, you've got to make a decision. Okay, maybe the decision is that under the other wants that you have on a monthly basis is that you really want to put money away for college expenses down the road, or whatever. Those types of things, or a vacation. You've got to make some choices, and these are those value judgments. This is getting back to, what's important, and not saying, well, I want it all, and I want it tomorrow. The next step would be to look at needs and wants on an annual basis.
I actually like doing that because I like us having that annual budget that we have. I like the reassessing of it every year. I like us being able to sit down and see how we spent our money and decide how we want to spend it, guess what, next year. And I also like the fact that we're so flexible that we can adjust it. And if there is any, if there's a tip I would give a couple, and I'm not a financial planner, if there is a tip I would give a couple, it would be to do this process. And I also encourage both people to be active in that.
Oh, absolutely.
They have to be.
I unfortunately, there are times when, there's, in any situation, couples, etc., that someone takes the role of being the numbers person, the finance person. The other person may, for whatever reason, not want to be involved in it. That's something that really needs to be worked on, because if that money person isn't in the picture anymore, the other person now is lost. You also have the problem
of stress.
Exactly.
Because the money cruncher, the person who's writing out the bills every month, if you're not...
They're the one that's saying we've got to cut back, and the other person who's not involved is saying, gee, I don't know why. These are things I enjoy, and I don't see why I have to cut back.
Right.
I mean, you can get into those issues.
And I do believe, in my clinical background, I've seen a lot of folks come before me, and I do believe that money is the last great issue with relationships. Some folks may, disagree, and they're welcome to. When all the 20-plus years that I've worked, when it comes down to that piece, that's that real intimate piece, that real tender piece. It creates a lot of mystery and a lot of challenges. And again, and particularly folks can know in our relationship that I feel really lucky because I am the one who does the monthly bill writing, and that gives you a chance to not have to worry. And I also give you an opportunity to see annually what it looks like, and you know what's going in and out of our home. And we also know where we need to cut back or move forward, which is neat because you're the financial planner and I'm kind of the mini financial planner at home. So
it's
I like
good
that.
Practice.
It is good. For us, it works well. Others, it may not. But in our case, we happen to figure that piece out, and of a piece that I'm really grateful for. So thank you.
The last piece on that, again, is future needs and wants. Those are could be things, again, I want to retire. I want to educate my kids, and I want to be able to send them to a private school. Though, again, needs and wants. The want might be private school. The need might be, well, college is important, but it might need to be the first 2 years at a community college.
Right.
And those are the kind of things in terms of future needs and wants that maybe is a good thing to kind of pencil out.
Before we close, folks who are really in a financial crunch, where have you sent some of your folks to at times if they needed or recommended? Consumer credit, any of those kind of places and avenues?
Again, based on what their needs are, besides a planner, etc. The Credit Counseling Center here in Rochester, especially if the issues are credit debt, budgeting issues, excellent resource to seek out. I think that's a great place if those are the major concerns right
and their
now.
needs are at that place.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I know you have a tips page that you'd like to share with us real quickly, if you'd like.
I do have a list. I won't go into the length of it.
They can get to you if they'd like it.
Right.
Okay.
I think either in the credits, people can contact me, and we'd be happy to send out. It's actually put out by Morningstar, and it's titled 101 Ways to Cut Expenses. I might have just a sample of I'll read off just one or two. And in reading these, many people would say, oh, that's simple, but...
A nice reminder.
Right, exactly. Here's one I like. Well, I don't like, but it does affect me. Play golf less often. Look for tee times when rates are reduced.
There you go.
Or play at lower cost public courses.
Right.
Again.
And I can remind you of that later, right?
Unfortunately, yes.
Thank you.
Here's one. Pay your mortgage payment biweekly instead of monthly.
Right.
You'll save on interest costs and pay off your mortgage sooner.
Great.
Switch to an HMO from a PPO for health insurance. Again,
a lovely
in some
list.
situations these may not be apply, etc. But it's really 101 ways to cut expenses. It's kind of interesting. So I'd be happy to talk about that. Other tips I would say is build up cash. If you're fortunate that your household can save money after needs and wants, is to build up cash. It's a good time to build up cash. Reduce your debt. Reduce your debt costs, the interest that you're paying. Find quiet time to kind of reassess what's really important. I think sometimes when we're running on that treadmill, we just don't take the time to kind of reassess what's really important.
Great. Thank you.
That might be a good step.
Well, what I'd like to do is I'd like to offer you an opportunity to close with one of your favorite quotes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Before we close with that favorite quote of yours, and I have you say that off, I want to really thank you for coming. I really appreciate what you do for me personally as your spouse. I appreciate what you do for your clients who are very lovely folks, and all those folks that you serve. And I've had the opportunity to meet some of them in my, my movement places with you at times, and those folks that you run across. And I do appreciate the financial stress we're in, and I appreciate the hope that you and I have personally experienced, and I'm hoping for our community that this particular television program has offered you an opportunity to become more quiet, more reflective, offered you some tools to use to help you through this journey. And on that note, again, thank you, James Mazza. You will be able to find out how to contact him at the end of the show. We'll run his contact information. And on that note, would you like to close with your favorite quote at this time?
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is by T.S. Eliot. Where's the life we have lost in living? Where's the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? Where's the knowledge we've lost in information? I think the information pieces were overwhelmed. Information overload. The internet, the TV, fast pace. It's just information overload.
So let's limit some of that.
Limit some of that information and seek out the knowledge. Just because it's on the internet doesn't make it truth.
Correct.
And valuable information. So seek out knowledge. And in seeking out knowledge, once you have knowledge, then seek out the wisdom in the knowledge. Sometimes that means seeking out a person who can help you find the wisdom.
Great. Thank you. Have a great day, folks.
This program was produced through Penfield Community Television in Penfield, New York.